Hey guys, hey guys, me back with another video, and this is part 4 to what if Deku was in Pacific Rim. Now, I gotta clarify some things, cause I rewatched the first couple episodes of Pacific Rim Into the Black, and the what's it called, the Jaeger that Deku's dad he initiated Project Blackout in, it was not November Ajax. It was a different Jaeger entirely. Yes. And also, I'm gonna find a picture or two for May, Deku's stepmother, real quick. I found it. This is it. This is Deku's stepmother. This is May, Deku's stepmother. She currently lives in the canyon civilization Deku started. She is also the pilot of Arctic Cross. Now, this is her model. I just wanted to put this out there, that way y'all didn't confuse May from Into the Black, or just the Black, the anime, with this one. Because this is an entirely different May. I didn't want to, because it's gonna cause a lot of confusion. I'm gonna change Deku's stepmother's name. I don't want to, but it's gonna cause a lot of confusion in the future if I don't change it. So, let's just say her name's Sam, short for Samantha. Yeah, that's fine. That works fine. Yeah, that works fine. So Deku's mom's name is Sam. Deku's stepmom's name is Sam. His original mom's name was Sarah. So yeah, I want to change that. I'm also going to save this. The reason I picked this is halfway because of the gun. Because she was a trained military person. She was trained military. Well, I'm going to switch back pictures now. So yeah, I wanted to clarify that because, there's two Mays there would be two Mays in the what if. And with what I plan to do, it kind of messes it up. So, yeah. So, we left off with Deku is 4 days away. Deku is currently, let's say Deku is 5 miles away from Shadow Basin, which is the canyon where Tyler and I had it in my head 4 seconds ago. Damn it. Okay, I'm back. I figured out her name. It was Taylor and Haley and Boy. Okay. I did forget where I was. But yeah. So, Deku is 4 days away from Atlas Destroyer's awakening. He is 5 miles out of Shadow Basin, where Haley, Taylor, and the rest of their community live. Now we're getting into the story. Deku is walking through the canyons, and those 2 years he's just wandered, ripping apart every kaiju he's come across. being tired and wanting at least a few moments of peace and quiet after his long, and I mean long, battles. He sits down, and he's still inside of Titan Hero. He sits down and disengages Neuralink. But before he does, he says, "Ruby, if I disengage your Neuralink, can I still talk to you inside my head?" She says, "Affirmative." Our neural handshake has improved to the point in which I can communicate with you through your mental state without the drift. Can you move Titan Hero without me? She says, "Affirmative, but not for more than 10 miles. He says, "That should be fine. I won't go far. If I need you, I'll call." So he gets out of the Neuralink and walks. He walks thinking, in peace and quiet, what to do next. He spent the last 2 years killing kaiju, and it's barely made a dent. So as he's walking, he hears Ruby in his head. You are approaching Shadow Basin." "What? What's Shadow Basin?" "It is a PPDC. And yes, I remember the name. I figured it out. It is a PPDC compound. It was a training facility. You were scheduled to move there within a year after Black. But the Black happened." "Oh, I see. So it's a final testing ground. Well, where is it?" "Buried. It was buried. It was buried when PPDC self-destructed all valuable assets." "Well, there's no reason sitting around. Let's go investigate." "That would not be wise. Have a little fun. You said Shadow Basin was right around here. Shouldn't be far." "As you insist." So Deku walks to Shadow Basin, and as he gets there, he sees people. And not just 1, 2, or even 5, but 20 or 30. This is a large find, and it looks like they have a sustainable food sources and water. They're living just fine. Deku sees this as amazing. Not only have people survived, but in some cases people are thriving. Deku then starts walking down. As he gets there, let's say that he's wearing his black jacket, and he's wearing a black jacket, jeans, some old shoes that he's had for a long time, and the black jacket, and he also has a shirt on. The black jacket says on the back, Titan. He's walking, and he's walking, as the people see him. They all start running back to their houses and hiding. And then Taylor walks out. And Haley too. "What are you doing what are you doing here? And who are you?" Deku then, thinking, then tries to say, he hasn't talked in 2 years. He's only ever communicated with Ruby. And that's only been through the neural handshake in his mind. He then says, he tries to say, He said, "What, can you not speak?" Haley says. Then he says, Then he looks to the side and sees a stick. He reaches down, picks it up, and Taylor draws a gun. Deku puts his hand out and trying to calm him down, and Haley quickly makes Taylor lower his gun. And then he writes, "Hello, I am friendly." Haley then responds with, "Oh, he can't talk, but he can write." "Oh, well, okay, why are you, we understand you're friendly, but why are you here? How are you here?" He then writes in the dirt, "I walk. I wander." "You're a wanderer? But you walked here? But we're in the middle of nowhere. And there are kaiju." He then writes in the dirt, "I had help." "Who helped you?" He then writes, let's say, Deku is trying to keep a low profile. So what he does is he writes, "Iron Giant." Haley and Taylor quickly realize that he had help from a Jaeger. Haley then runs up and grabs his shoulders and says, "Wait, you had help from a Jaeger? Who was it? Who was Jaeger? What was the Jaeger's name? Was it Hunter Virgo?" He then quickly writes in the dirt, "Not sure." Not, he says, he writes in the no. Then Haley says, "And who was it?" He then writes in TH. A capital T and a capital H. And then he points at it with the stick. TH, what does that mean? He then writes in the dirt short version. Haley and Taylor then says, "Well, what's the long version?" He writes in the sand, "Titan Hero." "Well, I haven't heard of that one. It might be a Mark 1. Out of date. Somebody might have found it and tried to. Some people might have found it and tried to operate it. It might have been successful. They might be our ticket out of here. And considering they got here, their weapons must be live." Deku shakes his head and then writes in the dirt, "Not here." "What do you mean, not here? You just said you had help." Deku then writes, walk far." He then points to where he came from and says, and then tries to say something, but it doesn't get it out. Then he writes, OB. No, not OB, OF. The alien then asks, "What's that abbreviated for?" He writes, "Obsidian Fury." Taylor knowing what it is and Haley not. Taylor asks, "What do you mean? That's not operational anymore. It was taken down by Gypsy." Deku then shakes his head and tries to say, and then he does say, working. Taylor then says, the kaiju has the biomech. The kaiju still has that. It was able to nearly take out one of the most strongest Jaegers we have. I don't think another Jaeger could have stopped it. Haley then says, what's your name? He writes in the dirt, Deku. Him not used to talking, so he'll have to spend some time readjusting. So, Deku, are you hungry? He then writes down a Y, and then Haley says, well, I guess that stands for yes. Deku smiles a bit and thinking, real people. I'm not just talking to Ruby anymore. Readopting some of his old personality, trying to adjust to having fun and living alone and not being alone anymore. And and then they walk off and they go into Taylor's house. Taylor and Haley's house. They sit down and start to eat. As they do, Deku asks the question, why are you here? What he does is he writes this down in a notebook they gave him. It was small, but he had a pen and paper. Haley then says, our parents left us here to go get help 5 years ago. He then says on the paper, sorry, my parents gone too. How'd it happen? Haley says. I was in this city when Category 5 when Category 5 attacked. My father initiated Project Black. He is gone. That's what he writes. He then says, wait, if your father initiated Project Blackout, then that means he was a pilot. What Jaeger did he pilot? He then writes down November Ajax. When they hear this, they think, November Ajax only had one kid. And that kid had a quirk. Haley then Tyler pops the question, what's your quirk? He writes down on it, Solo. And then it says, increased intelligence. I believe I made them all 18. So Haley would be, let's say Taylor's 18 and everybody else is 16. So, and then they say, oh, well, I guess that really won't help us out here. It would have been cool if you had an emitter or a mutation type quirk. He nods as he keeps eating. When dinner's finished, he goes outside and sits down. Haley then walks out and gives him a blanket and says, Well, you can stay with us. We don't mind. Over a course of 3 days, he makes a very strong bond with Haley and her friend. Her friend has brown hair. If you've seen the anime, you know what I'm talking about. Taylor and Deku are kind of like, we tight, bro. Yeah. Taylor and Deku are pretty much just like, I'd give a limb for you, brother. They're pretty much like unofficial brothers. Now, if you're wondering how this happened, Taylor has been working on a generator and made it extremely quiet, and it also produced enough electricity to pretty much charge a car battery in a matter of minutes. And Deku helped him crack it, so they got tight over that. So now it's on the 4th day. Haley found a Jaeger helmet, and Haley found a Jaeger helmet and was showing it to Deku and her friend when Tyler walked in. And when she found it, Deku was with her. But Taylor won't know this. And by the way, he used Ruby to scan for Jaeger remains. Yeah, unoperational Jaeger remains. And she found nothing. So yeah. Taylor walks in and Deku and Haley's friend bounces immediately as he walks over to see what she has. Deku then holds up a finger, and then holds up 2 fingers on one hand, and 3 fingers on another. And this signals this is him signaling to be careful, And then he uses his fingers again to make the expression sad. And then the angry symbol. Taylor immediately is like, Deku's been caring ever since he came into this community. He has never hurt anybody, and he was beaten up multiple times by people because he was new, and he did not once retaliate. So if he's telling me not to get angry, then what you got behind your back, Haley? She pulls out and shows him, and he gets fucking pissed. You know you're not allowed out that far. You could have got the entire village killed. Kaiju are not a joke. They are evil. They'll kill you at any cost. Haley says, I know, but no buts. Promise me you'll never go back out there. I promised Mom and Dad I'd keep you alive, not entertained. Deku then says, my fault. Taylor looks over, and Haley says, no. He then writes out in the book, and Taylor reads it out. I was looking for something special, and Haley helped look for it. We found that. What were you looking for, Deku? He then writes in the book, dog tag. Dropped it on the way in. Haley then runs off and says saying English runs. You shouldn't have made him do that. You shouldn't have. Her being upset because Taylor just forced out of Deku something that he didn't want to bring it up. Taylor then apologizes and gives him a hug and says, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I don't want anyone to get hurt. Deku then pats him on the back and then holds up you know how chefs go, es piece de resistance, and they hold up the got him sign, except it's magnifique. He holds up that and says it's okay. And then Taylor, Deku, damn it. Don't you hate it when your dad's Facebook's on your thing? I'm not wasting a half an hour of my life, so this is getting uploaded either way. So yeah, Deku and Taylor start running after Haley, and then they fall in on the shadow basin, the base. And Deku asks Ruby to scan the area. Ruby's report says, no signs of life found. Operational useful technology located. Pieces 1. What's the piece? Operational Jaeger. Deku's eyes widen and he says, what Jaeger? Atlas Destroyer. Training Jaeger. Operational weapons 0. He says, we should look around on his notebook. Taylor's opposed a bit, but then Deku writes, please, trust me. Taylor says, okay, and they start looking around. They come across Atlas Destroyer. And Haley goes through the skip cycle while Deku goes. And, yeah. And by the way, Deku has increased strength, stamina, and speed because of his kaiju thing. Yeah, he kind of drifted with a kaiju for months at a time. And because his mental prowess was higher than the kaiju's, he gained the kaiju's physical strength and its ability to reflect kinetic energy. So Deku's now as strong as a category 4 kaiju with the ability to reflect kinetic energy. He's also as durable as one. So Deku, when they keep walking around the base, and Kaylee goes through the thing, and Taylor is looking through Atlas Destroyer, as Atlas Destroyer recognizes the signal, as Atlas Destroyer says, Operational Jaeger in proximity. Of 5 miles. Haley and Taylor's heads snap and say, what? Operational Jaegers found. 1. Distance 5 miles. They're like, what's the Jaeger? Who's the Jaeger? Unregistered Jaeger found. Not checking frame. Jaeger located. Jaeger's name is Obsidian Fury. Their eyes widen and they say, what? No. It can't be. Obsidian Fury. No. Who's Obsidian Fury? Taylor responds with, it was back before you were born. I was 2, and for around 4 years, it was all that they could talk about on the news. How biomechs were spreading out, and the strongest was Obsidian Fury. What's a biomech? It's a kaiju mech hybrid. It's a kaiju Jaeger hybrid. What's the status of the Jaeger? It's currently powered down. Based on movement readings, it hasn't moved in the past 5 days. That's good. Either it's eating or resting. We should be fine if we let it pass. And then the AI that says, I believe the AI's name is Loa. The AI then says, now you have completed the training. Now initiating walk cycle. Opening hangar doors. The hangar doors start to open as it starts to collapse. And then they say, no, the kaiju. As the Loa stops the doors from opening and say, Category 4 Kaiju, Copperhead, also known as Jaeger Breaker, approaching. Estimated time for impact, 5 minutes. It's okay, Haley says. It's just a drill. This is training. Negative. Jaeger Breaker is approaching. No signs of Biomech Obsidian Fury moving. He then says, if that thing would have come, it would have been worse than a Category 5. Oh yeah, and if you didn't, you guys don't know this, but the, Australia, the continent they're currently on, it was being attacked multiple cities at the same time. So Deku taking down the kaiju wouldn't have stopped Project Black. So yeah. Deku then says, Ruby, I need you now. Let's go. Confirm. Titan Hero on the move. Loa then says, Biomech Obsidian Fury has begun movement. Designated time till impact, 6 minutes. At this point of time, the Copperhead's gonna be here in 4 minutes. What are we gonna do? Tyler then says, Deku, you're Ajax's son, you have pilot training, right? He then shakes his head no, thinking, if we drifted, my mind would break you. So, Haley then steps in the mech and busts out. At this point, Copperhead has killed every single person there. And actually, no. It is impact time. As the Copperhead has currently killed half the settlement. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Copperhead has currently killed half the settlement. As Atlas Destroyer manages to break out of the ground, the Jaeger Breaker then turns around as Taylor says, "Fire all weapons," and then Lola says, "Critical hit. You have defeated the kaiju," is what I would say if this actually had weapons. This is a training Jaeger. He then says, "Oh shit," as he's tackled, and and Deku goes flying against the walls. 1 minute 30 seconds till Obsidian Fury arrives. We need to get rid of this thing now, before that thing gets here. I'm on it, Haley says, as they jump up and Superman punch the fucking kaiju. But quickly the kaiju retaliates and fucking Rhino headbutts the Jaeger almost off the canyon. As Deku then types on a keyboard to low and then says, "Got it." What'd he say to you? It's fine. As the Copperhead is charging them, and then she says, "Get on your bellies flat now." They get down and the Copperhead flies over the canyon. That's what he told me. It's not dead either. We need to go. As Obsidian Fury, or also known as Titan Hero, approaches, he stands over Atlas Destroyer on the ground. As Deku gets out of the mech, they're screaming, "No, no, don't!" As Deku turns and says, "Safe." As Ruby's hand extends down and picks up Deku as he gets in the biomech. And the drift sequence happens. He then projects his thoughts over the speakers and says, "I am Titan Hero." And then their jaws drop. Oh, by the way, Copperhead kinda broke through a wall. And that wall, kinda squashed the rest of the settlement, so everybody's dead. And yeah. Deku then gets out of the mech of the Jaeger and walks down to the settlement to see his friend, him and Haley's friend, dead on the floor. As he starts to cry, his eyes go red, but he refuses to open them as Haley holds his shoulder. And he says, "It's not your fault. It's the goddamn kaiju." He he then stands up and then with a stern voice says, "Let's go. Find your parents." With a serious look on Deku's face, he starts walking. He gives an Obsidian Fury, also known as Titan Hero, and they start walking. He also, let's say he's really prepared and he had an extra 2 arm blades on his back, kind of like how you would have swords. So he took one of the arm blades and put it inside Atlas Destroyer. He then says, this is a plasma blade. Very strong, hard to break. And it should be a deadly weapon in melee combat. The Copperhead's not dead yet. Yet. And when he comes back, I have to let you kill him. He killed your family. Your friends. They nod as they start walking off. And if this is something you didn't know, when Deku calls Ruby from a long distance, it puts immense strain on his mind, and even with the mind to match 40 men, piloting a Jaeger from 5 miles away, puts some strain on your body. So, as they're walking, Deku and Atlas Destroyer at the same time in synchronization. Deku gets on his knees and lowers his hand as he gets out of the mech, knowing he's reached his limit. Atlas Destroyer falls face first on the ground, out of juice. And let's say because he can't pilot the mech, he can't open the comm pods to get the power cell, so he's locked out of the power cells. Let's say the strain on his mind lasts for about, a day. So he needs a good night rest in order to get the strain on his mind gone. I have to use the bathroom, I'll be right back. Yeah, his eyes have gone red. No. I'm so sorry. I was thinking about how he reacts when his eyes go red for a second, and I lost track of where I was. Yeah, but it takes about a day for him to get over his mental strain. So, they go into the city looking for a power cell at the PBCD. Yeah. It's headquarters. So, they're walking through town as they get to a foggy area. Deku snaps his fingers to get their attention as he moves his eyes around, indicating that there's something moving. They then say, "What's wrong?" He then holds up one finger. It means kaiju. They get on guard immediately as Deku then holds up four fingers to say, "Run. Meet you there." They run as Deku's there, and 4 kaiju dogs, also known as rivers, walk out of the bushes. He sprouts some fangs as his bones turn into, you know how Baraka from Mortal Kombat has the blades? Yeah, those spit out of his arms like, no. You know what? That'd be taking it too far. No, he did that. That does not happen. All that happens is his teeth get sharper, and his eyes go red. He's learning how to control the power of kaiju. As the dogs start to whimper, he smirks a bit and says, "You're kaiju." As he dashes and rips them apart. He quickly catches up to them as they're going across the bridge. And they go into the PBCD. They go down to the basement to find a capsule of green goo. And Haley, walks up to and puts her hand on it, and boy pops out, puts his hand to the glass, and smiles. Taylor and Deku walk in, and Taylor says, "Nice, a power cell." Haley says, "Look at this." As boy pops up to the glass again, and puts his face right up to the glass looking at Deku. Deku smirks and puts his hand on the glass. Taylor then says, "What's wrong with you?" Deku then looks over and says, "Nothing." Because he doesn't speak very much. I keep saying says, but because I'm so used to doing dialogue. Deku then picks up a pipe and smacks the glass, making it look like he used zero effort. Not zero effort, but he looks like he put some effort into it, but it was really a lot of power, because you know how strong that glass was. He shatters the glass and more rippers come running, which is the kaiju dogs. He then picks up Boy, and then Tyler gets the power cell, as they start running. Now, they get back to the thing, but... So yeah, they make it back to the bridge where they cross to get into the center area of the PPCD. And when they do, they're cornered by 2 packs of rippers, also known as kaiju hounds. And then there's a giant hand that grabs one of the packs and starts to eat it. It's Apex. Deku knows it. They don't. Deku then just nods and carries Boy. They make it back to the Jaegers, and they figure out that whoopsie-doo, the power cell is cracked. So, they call it a night, and they all sleep inside of Atlas Destroyer. That's where we're gonna end it here. Next episode, we'll talk about more stuff. I tried to go slower in this one, just because I remember someone asking me, saying I went too fast. And I thought so too, I just don't know how. I'm just trying to slow myself down a little bit more. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, and like I said, join the Discord. I like people joining Discord because I can talk to people. Also, write down your OC in the comment section and post it. Write down the Jaeger they want to pilot, even if it's just the biomech, because remember, Deku is currently a part of a, because you could say, squabble for the throne of Biomech King. But Apex is already pretty much his underling. And there are more biomechs. I'm just not bringing them up yet. So if you want your biomech to be in the series, comment down the OC's name and put a link in the description for a picture. Thank you for watching. Peace out, demons. Like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Duel out.